I'm very glad about this event tonight because it has given me a reason to gather my thoughts about Father Andrew, and in the process I've come to appreciate what a privilege it is to have known him. Those of you who did not know him will pretty surely find much of what you hear about him this evening, if not downright unbelievable, certainly hard to imagine. I was with some Portsmouth people at lunch today, and the question came up, is this supposed to be a roast of Father Andrew? And I volunteered that I thought it would be something between a roast and a canonization. There are many anecdotes this evening, and let me give you just two brief vignettes from around the time of his death in June of 1988. He was sick with leukemia, the galloping kind of leukemia which finished him in just a few months. He was in St. Anne's Hospital in Fall River at the end. Abbot Matthew and I were visiting him a couple of days before his death. He was running a high temperature and having difficulty focusing on conversation. While we were there, the hospital social worker came in to introduce herself to the patient and let him know what she could do for him. Clearly, she hadn't been properly briefed and could not read the signs in him that he was very near his end. Andrew listened, or tried to listen, patiently, quietly, and when she had finished, with great effort, he managed to get out the words, "I am so grateful." They are the last words I heard him say, and I find them very characteristic of him at his best.
Much of Andrew's kindness over the years can be classified as random acts of kindness. I know that all of Father Andrew's acts of kindness were, not all of them were random, but it is the random ones that I think we remember the most. And as we know, Andrew had a quality of seemingly to be everywhere all the time. And if you think about the laws of probability, if you're everywhere all the time, then everything will happen eventually. And I think his acts of kindness touched everyone in most wonderful and very unexpected ways. From the perspective of the school today, the Jenks year in mathematics is all about promoting teaching careers at Portsmouth. One of Portsmouth's most fundamental challenges is attracting and retaining faculty with Andrew's quality of mind who are specifically attracted to Portsmouth because of its mission, and who have the inclinations and personality to spend their professional and much of their personal lives helping high school students, as we say, to grow in knowledge and grace. The Jenks chair, in addition to perpetuating the memory of Father Andrew, will allow Portsmouth to attract and retain such talented faculty by providing resources for competitive salaries and support for professional development in mathematics. To this end, and with gratitude to those whose generosity made the Andrew Chair possible, I was most pleased to announce that Pam McDonough was our inaugural Jenks Chair at last May's commencement ceremonies. A scholar and dedicated boarding person, Dan has served as Math Department Chair, Keeper of the School Clocks, Academic Dean, Associate Headmaster, and School Scheduler, so all sounds familiar. As I know Andrew was during his student days at the mathematically progressive Newton Mass High School in the 1930s, and then on to Bowdoin and Harvard, Dan is intensely interested in high school mathematics curriculum development, especially in how technology can aid both in delivery of content and in the facilitation of discovery in the teaching and learning of mathematics. I am very pleased that my good friend and colleague and former colleague of Father Andrew is our first Andrew Chair, and I ask him to say a couple words for us, Dan.
And so there are many reasons why this honor means a lot to me, but perhaps the most important is that I began my career in 1984 while Father Andrew was still teaching in the math department. Seeing his example was a priceless gift for a new teacher. All math teachers enjoy working with the best students, but the best math teachers enjoy working with the weakest students as well. And that is something I learned directly from Dom Andrew's example.
Several years ago, maybe 10 years ago, I took about 3 hours to put together a paper of kind probably each of you have. And the title of it was If It Weren't for Them. And I went through there and I put this together. It was really easy to do, as it probably is for any of us, to put down from time that I met my lovely wife, who is here with me tonight, Francie. The individual, other than my parents, who made the biggest difference in my life through meeting her was Father Andrew. As I said when I was offered the opportunity to come back to Portsmouth in 2008 for the commencement, as I said to the graduates, and what a lovely event that was, I told them, I didn't have it with me then, that I have on my desk at home this picture of Father Andrew, which you'll know, we saw a much bigger version of it here. But I have that on my desk, and I've had it on my desk for as long as I can remember. And I look at it from time to time to be reminded of the values of this man and what he meant to me. This is a very special evening for me, and I know for all of us, to be able to celebrate this man's life, what he meant to us, what he meant to so many others, and to tell stories like this, hopefully to others, so that they can somehow experience the value, character of this man, as we did. So Jim, if you could pass that glass my way, I have the honor of making a toast here to Father Andrew Jenks.
Don't worry if you can't finish everything that's on your plate. The ghost of Father Andrew will come. Will soon glide in and sweep the leftovers into the voluminous folds of his monastic robe. Everyone shares the memory, this memory of Father Andrew. So this is kind of like a cliche.
Family decided, and the bishop decided that my first cousin, Dick Campbell, and I needed a challenge. So we ended up in Portsmouth. All 3 years, from 62 to 65, I was in the red dorm. That's a whitewashed, sort of a kindle wood, pile of kindle wood, I would call it, where Father Andrew was the housemaster. And it was special to me. It meant a lot to me that he picked me to be one of his prefects in my 6th form year. I lived in a little coffin-sized, single, separated from his room by the common room. And you've heard a lot about the scheduling. One of my duties was to wake him up. The schedule. And he only slept 2 or 3 hours a night for weeks. And sometimes I really did not think that I would be able to get him up. So Father Andrew, he would have to be counted as a passionate Christian rather than a peaceful one. Not that he wasn't a man of reason. There was a legend when I was there, and I'm calling it a legend now because since I've been here, I've asked a couple of students if they ever heard this remark, and no one recognized it. So I'm calling it a legend, but I heard it. It's very distinct in my memory. And I actually saw a note being passed around our table that brought up his reputation at Harvard. So some others maybe have heard the same thing, but while I was there was a student by the name of Peter Morris, whose father was a professor in the Department of Mathematics at Harvard Graduate School. And according to Pete Morris, his father had told him that Father Andrew had the reputation of being the most brilliant man who had ever been through the Harvard Graduate School of Mathematics. This man locked himself away in a small Catholic school teaching want to disappoint his expectations of you, and his confidence that you could meet those expectations. I can remember how important it was to me to read the reports to the parents each semester. At that time, his opinion of me was the most important, more important than anyone else's. It makes me wonder how effective sweet reasonableness alone can be with a bunch of pig-headed slacker boys. Sweet reasonableness presupposes some virtue being there to begin with. Even Aristotle's dictum of becoming virtuous by doing virtuous acts seems to beg the question. How do you get a bunch of slackers to act virtuously? Andrew had the answer. The highest expectations, lavish praise and support, and violent disapproval, and especially no action. By the explosive force of his larger-than-life character, he taught the heart and the gut, the basic values of being aware as a Christian, caring and giving one's utmost. That's how I remember Father Andrew.
A year or two later, my mother decided I should have a Catholic education. I came to Portsmouth and had an interview with Andrew. I also attended conventual mass. Andrew was charming, but I found the mass rather dull. I was used to more lively hymns, to which we frequently rewrote the lyrics. Hark the herald angels sing, Mrs. Simpson's pinched our king. Or, stand up for Jesus, for Christ's sake, don't sit down. So in spite of his charm, I did not give Andrew that much that day, as I wanted to stay at Testament. Gradually, I became aware that someone had been walking with me. His quiet presence and loving concern eventually calmed me down. And I returned to St. Benet's, and he to the manor house. Having never said a word, there was no need to say anything. Thomas à Kempis once said, I would rather feel compassion than know its definition. Andrew was the epitome of compassion, and you know he knew its definition.